So George, I'm on a little bit of a pilgrimage to try and complete Apple TV Plus. I'm just going through and trialing a lot of the series, but I just watched the first episode of Severance.
Okay.
Do you know about this show?
I know that it's got Adam Scott in it of Parks and Recreation famous, who has done some serious stuff, and also Ben Stiller directed it?
Produced, directed,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Written?
his baby. No, he didn't. At least he didn't have a writing credit on the first episode, but I'm sure he's contributed to story elements of it. I watched the first episode. I really like it.
Okay, give me the gist. Then.
Gist of Severance. So Apple TV Plus original. It's set in this sort of weird modern day, but there are loads of sort of old analog digital elements to it. Okay. It looks very sheeny corporate, almost like David Lynchian-esque. Okay. Loads of symmetry and leading lines. And the main shtick is that there is this super duper corporate bureaucratic company, and the people that work at this company undergo a procedure called severance. Right. And basically what severance means is that your brain and your memories, when you agree to this procedure, your memories become like bifurcated and separate, so that when you turn up to work, you have no memory of who you are in your personal life. And when you leave work, you have no memory of the person you are at work.
Okay,
right?
Interesting.
And the reason why I thought this is I thought the first episode at least was really well executed, and I can't really call this a review, it's more like a first impressions, right? Okay. Is that, just before we were talking about The Matrix and that scene of exposition and show, don't tell, and I think that scene is incredible, and it probably gets away with telling you more than it should for like the rule, but because it's so well crafted. This episode is so good at showing you a really cool heightened sci-fi concept, because I think if you were to be really cynical about the show, you could say it's a Black Mirror concept that they've escalated into a full series. But like the format of this show kind of shows you what it means to have your memories completely separated. It starts with this woman who's just woken up on top of a table at a boardroom, and there's this speakerphone asking her questions, and she's herself and she is her own personality, but she has no memory of what her name is, where she lives, who her family members are, when her birthday is. She's completely starting from normal.
But she knows what her job is.
No, she doesn't. She literally doesn't know anything. She's just woken up from her perspective as brand new, not a new consciousness, because she's still herself. And she meets this character played by Adam Scott, who's part of this company. And she realizes that she can't leave. And she says, I want to leave. I don't want to do this. Let me out. And when she goes to cross the door to leave, as is her right, she immediately walks back in, and she goes, what? I just tried to leave. And she walks back out again. But the next memory she has is walking back in. And so she goes to Adam Scott. She goes, what? So I'm never gonna leave this place? And he goes, oh, you'll leave at 5. And it's like, what? So I don't have a choice? And he's like, no, you have a choice. But every time you've left, the person on the other side wants to come back in. So the person that she is in her personal life is walking her back into work, but she can't remember.
At a different time in the future.
No, it's not in the future. It's the exact same, but she has no memory of her personal person outside of work that she doesn't.
So in a way, she's trapped.
She's kind of trapped.
The version of herself that is working there and has no memory of the outside world is basically forever stuck in this workplace.
Well, no, because she'll leave at 5.
Yes, but the version of herself that only remembers the place won't, right? So so basically you're talking about almost 2 people in one.
Yes. So when Adam Scott leaves his job, his eyes kind of flicker, and he goes home and he doesn't know what he did that day at work.
Okay. And
then the same thing happens where he'll turn up to work and his eyes kind of flicker, and he's in this company, and it's this really almost like sterile. Like I said, there's like analog old keyboards, and there's like 4 cubicles in the middle of this large room. John Turturro's in it.
Oh, great.
And there's like these really weird bosses that call them in for these meetings. They don't really know what's happening, but it's really, really cool in the way in which it's teaching you what its concept is. And she's like, do I have a family? And he's like, you'll never know.
Wow.
And she's like, do I have friends? Like, maybe, but you'll never meet them. Like, do we know each other outside work? And like, I don't know. We could be best friends, or we could never meet ever again.
God.
And then so she goes and sits down, and she sees a video of herself in the same dress, and the video is her saying, I fully agree to take, and she's really happy to take part in the Severance program. I do this willingly and at my own accord. And I acknowledge that I am recording this 2 hours before I'm about to be shown this video. And it's the vast version of herself before she's undergone severance.
Yeah, okay. It just sounds quite bleak.
Because
I'm thinking so much of like your experience is, I know the idea is like, well, that's to the benefit of her in the real world because she never has to think about work. But it's like, but your life is influenced by your work, and surely you, instead of having one person, you've just got two sort of experientially malnourished people.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate clock in, clock out. Like, you do your time
I get it, but
go.
I'm just like, oh, what's the logical conclusion of this though? Like, where can they take this without me just feeling like?
And the hook is like, this is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. The Adam Scott character is, he's left work. He's at a diner having dinner, and this slightly older man is staring at him from across the road, and he's like, "Who the hell's that guy?" And then he's like really worried because this guy's following him, and then he comes and sits at the same table as him, and he's like, "Do I know you?" And he's like, "We used to work together." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I've never met you before. Get away." He's like, "No, like." I know where you work. You need to get out. You have no idea what they're doing. And he's like, "Yeah, you've done Severance." And I was like, "Did we know each other at work?" And he's like, "You're my best friend."
Wow.
And like he gives him this letter, and then the plot like goes on from there. And it's
okay,
about, like,
all right,
finding out what the company is doing. I mean, I've only seen the first episode.
Yeah, so you can't really spoil it.
I can't really spoil it. That's like the central
Yeah.
hook of the show. Is like, what is this like huge corporate? It reminds me of the game Control by Remedy Games if you played it, but it's like really. It was just that concept was explained in such a cool visual way, and I don't think me explaining the whole door thing made sense to you. But
No,
if you
no,
were
no,
to watch it.
no, I think
it's like even though she was allowed to leave, herself that it was at work was allowed to leave. The person on the other side of the door wants to take her back to work.
Yeah, because she's thinking I need to go to work. Or something.
Yes, yeah.
I get it. I get the concept. I'm interested. You have piqued my interest.
It's good.
I hope with all these high concept things, like it doesn't fall apart in the last 2 episodes.
I hope so too. So the reason I picked up to watch it is because I think it's releasing weekly, and it's on its 9th or 10th episode. So it's coming to the end of its first season, and Apple have said they've commissioned it for a second season. So I've gone, okay, because I know Apple are going for a lot of first seasons, and I want to commit to something that I think is going to be around for a while.
C with Jason Momoa. Like,
Yeah.
Is that coming back?
That is season 2, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who plays the woman?
Oh, I can't
Is it
remember.
Patricia Arquette? It could be.
I'll check. I'm sorry. It probably.
You're on a film podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I did check.
I've seen her in the advert, so I didn't know if she was the main actress.
Sorry, yeah, it's Britt Lower who's the woman I'm talking about.
right.
But Patricia Arquette is also in it, and she's really good. And
Great.
cool.
Oh, obviously.
But yeah, I still don't know a lot about it.
Is Ben Stiller in it?
No, not as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Cinematography is really cool. It's very digital and clean. You know in Tenet how Nolan used different colors to represent you moving through different periods of time and use that as like a subtle indicator. I can tell they're doing something similar with like reds and blues on either side. And yeah, there's this other great scene where Adam Scott's character is sitting at a dinner table, and the conversation of like what everyone does for work comes up, and people are aware of the severance procedure, but it's this kind of taboo thing that he doesn't have any idea what he's doing, and someone's asking him about work, and someone sort of outs him as being someone who's gone through severance, and it's a little bit awkward because he doesn't know what he's doing, and it's interesting.
But when you said a couple of questions, when you said it was like Lynchian.
Yes,
I wouldn't have thought of corporate American workplace as very Lynchian. What made you say that?
It's like use of color and aesthetic, maybe not necessarily like the corporate side of it.
It looks very grey though. I thought
it's actually quite colourful. There's a lot of like pops of red and blue. But yeah, there is grey. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what you describe it makes me remember like it makes me think of the Matrix with like how the green corporate with all the booze, just how depressing that is. You should really look back at one of my favorite films, The Apartment. That was really one of the first films to capture just like. It has this really wide-angle lens shot at the beginning, and it zooms in on an office building, and it comes in to an office floor. Obviously, it's like a soundstage, but like they've made it like office, and it's just rows and rows and rows and rows of desks facing the camera, a sea of desks, and it just slowly comes in close on Jack Lemmon working at his desk in the middle, right? And it's just, and the rows of lights are very repetitive, and the tiles are very repetitive, and it was like the first one, like film to like render how just like. You are like a cog in a machine in the contemporary American office workplace. And if you ever see articles or think pieces about like the American workplace now, as always, as like a funny reference, they'll include that shot from The Apartment.
Right. Yeah.
And it makes you think of like Office Space, which we were talking about earlier, and you hadn't seen. But that is very much about like end of the 90s, like booth culture, and I don't know if you know the premise of Office Space. It's like it's like a comedy, and it's written by the guys who do Beavis and Butthead, and Ron Livingston's the main guy, and he hates his job. He's very depressed, and so he goes to see a hypnotherapist who to make him enjoy his job, and the hypnotherapist puts him under the spell, and then the hypnotherapist has a heart attack and dies in the room before he can snap him out of it. So Ron Livingston goes to work with like this like euphoric, ecstatic detachment from work, and no one can work it out, and like his bosses just like don't understand. It's like he starts like knocking down the barriers to the booths and stuff, and people are like, and he's like this disruption in the machine, very much in the way like the Matrix is, but just a completely different genre. Anyway, I'm sure that's in there somewhere.
No,
just thinking of like
it definitely sounds
familiar.
familiar.
Sort of satire, commentary on like
the sort of like aesthetic and like draining like quality of an office is like a very explored phenomenon in fiction. But
like The Office.
Yeah, my main thing was that I think I went into it a little bit cynical, being like, you've got a very very tall sci-fi concept to try and explain. And I was quite impressed with the way that it explained it, at least in that first episode, and it gave me a good little hook for next episode. But at least after first episode, give Severance a go. And I'm probably going to watch the rest of it because I'm keen. You know what, the Apple TV stuff, I'll give the Apple TV stuff. I know that they're doing a lot of series. You can tell they're really trying to throw some noodles at the wall and see what sticks. All their stuff looks really high quality. And what I'll give them over something like Netflix or Amazon is that I don't really see the same barometer of quality in a Netflix original that I do.
Or the ambition.
Yes. Okay. I can tell that like Apple TV Plus want to be known for fewer high quality releases.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I hope maybe this will be a hit.